when I was a little kid, I just knew that music was something that was in my blood. I mean, I knew that I loved listening to music. I loved, everything from banging the pots and pans to singing when I was a little kid. But, what does it mean to want to be a professional musician? I mean, it's one of those things where as you grow older, you start really loving it. It became a huge hobby for me. But you just don't know if it's a realistic, goal to have. Certainly would never have expected what's happened to have happened back then. But I thought honestly that, with the voice that I had, what I would strive for was theater, because I thought that was the kind of thing that I could do. I love to act. I love to sing in many different styles. So for me, I kind of thought that, something like theater and musical theater would be a really natural place for me. But when I got signed, it just kind of went into a whole new level, which I love. Sure, the one I'm doing is tomorrow night, and it is it's a great opportunity for me to do a couple of things. First and foremost, to raise a bunch of money for my own foundation. It's the Josh Groban Foundation. We've raised about $2 million in the last 2 or 3 years. So much of that has been raised by my tireless and incredible fans. And this is an opportunity for me to kind of get out and sing a couple songs acoustically. I've just come off a huge tour and where we've been able to go big, and coming out here, not only doing the foundation concert tomorrow night, but then the next night doing Harry O's, just a cut down kind of acoustic show in a bar, is really fun for me. That's where I like to go see music. That's where we're really given the opportunity to let some of these songs really breathe and get away from some of the safety blankets a little bit. My foundation is generally it's for children around the world, and we try to find the places and the situations that seem to fall through the cracks a little bit. So we will find an orphanage in South Africa or someplace like that just hasn't been noticed and is in desperate need of help, and we try to find those places where a little bit goes a long, long way. And so when it comes to things like education and shelter and food and that sort of thing, and the refurbishing of buildings and water and beds and that kind of thing, it's really so much fun to see the change happen dramatically and quickly, because having seen it firsthand, and then having started the foundation, and it's modest in comparison to some of the other big ones, but with the money that we have, we've been able to do such a tremendous amount of good. I just came from John Legend's event last night, and he gave such an incredible speech about his organization in Tanzania, and it's very much the same thing, where it's just, poverty can be completely gotten rid of if we just educate and put a little bit more money into helping with agriculture and things like that, and it can be done. So it's inspiring, when he and I are both in positions now where we can use what we do to reach people and to raise a little bit of money, and it really does go a long way. I mean, I've had a number of huge influences growing up. I mean, I grew up listening to everything from Paul Simon to Peter Gabriel to Domingo and all the great, and Mel Torme and the great voices. On my particular story, I mean, I would say that David Foster had the biggest impact on my career simply because he started it. He was kind of the guy that found me and convinced the label to sign me and convinced the label to do something different, and we kind of went in without thinking about anybody else other than just trying to make the best CD possible, and we've kind of kept by that motto. We don't always work together, but he's the one that really kind of first taught me that it's okay to throw yourself into the fire and try something different, and he's been a great mentor. God, good question. It's a toss-up between Bob Marley and John Lennon, probably. I just think that those are two people that are unfortunately no longer with us. But when you listen to what they've achieved and what they've brought to the musical world, and you hear their influences on everything that's come afterwards, I think it'd be a pretty phenomenal experience. Yes and no. Sometimes, I mean, I think that a lot of times I'll hear something in my head, or I'll hear a demo that we've done or something, and I'll know exactly what we need to do to layer it. But the greatest thing for me is the surprises that happen in the studio. You bring in all the musicians and you press the big button, and things happen that you would have never expected. I don't think I've been in a studio once where exactly as we thought it would be, actually came to fruition that way. And it's always for the better that happens. It's always the surprises that make things great. On the album before my Christmas album, Awake, never expected in a million years that I'd be able to work with someone like Ladysmith Black Mambazo or Imogen Heap. These are people that are so kind of so extraordinarily for lack of a better word, just accomplished and good in their field, and different than what I do, and so it's always interesting when you get into an example of that is when you get into a studio with somebody like that, and they're different from what you do, and you know that you have to combine forces and do something different, but you don't quite know what to do. It's scary, but I think out of that fear comes really great goal, because you've got no other choice than to really make something great. And so I like going into the studio not knowing what's going to happen, because I think it keeps you on your feet. And I think if you get too comfortable, that's when you start to get a little bit complacent and you start to get a little bit lazy with your work. I think the first time we played and sold out Madison Square Garden in New York was a big one for me. I love that city, and I always kind of drove by the Garden in a taxi cab and just thought, oh man, one day that would be just the best. And it was a really special moment, because the fans in New York have been, among the greatest for me. And playing that town is always fun, but to play the Garden was a big one for me. And then being also here in Salt Lake City, playing at the closing ceremonies of the Olympics was a huge honor for me, and having my family here, and it was just about this cold outside. And I got to sing right when the flame went out. So this area has a real special meaning for me. I don't know. I mean, the people that I really look up to are those people that kind of did it their own way, kind of people that let people come to them and ignored the hype and just went ahead and tried to come up with their own personality musically. It's a little bit of a harder path, especially with the way that the industry is now. But I think that ultimately, if I can be looked at not as a genre, but as it's just Josh. I like Josh. Then that would be a great goal for me. If I can look back, and hopefully have a long career and look back and say that I did everything the way I wanted to, and just kind of stay true to myself. That's the one thing I think most new artists need to kind of realize, is that that you try harder and harder to kind of fit into a mold, and I think that what they don't realize is that you're the only one that's you. If you just embrace that 100%, but you'd be the most unique thing out there, because there's nothing else like that. So it's hard to do, but if you can kind of keep that mentality, I'd like to try to do that. I'm a homebody for sure. I love being home. I love spending time with my family and my dog and just kind of vegging out. But I have to say that the road beats that just a little bit. I love traveling. It's the greatest gift that this business has given me, is being on the road, and it inspires me creatively. It's a great way to kind of get ideas, and it's fantastic. Just even to see my own country, just to take a road trip across America has just been so cool. I mean, I stay up all night just because we stop in the strangest places, and then of course traveling around the world has been amazing. We're going to South Africa in March to do a tour there, and we're going to have the time of our lives. And you learn so much. You become inspired, and you realize pretty quickly that as far as traveling around the world, languages are different, cultures are different, but music and the arts really are such a universal thing, and everyone, all the fans are the same everywhere. Just get a good team around you that believe in you, and try to sift your way through the BS, and like I said earlier, just stay true to your own vision, because there are certainly going to be a lot of people that want their vision to be your vision, and it's important that you keep your own identity. If I weren't a singing sensation, I would try to be maybe a veterinary sensation. I love animals. I have been fascinated with medicine and science since I was a little kid, and I think that's something that I would have seriously considered doing had I not been banging on the pots and pans. What was it? I think it was my first car. I think I bought it like a two-door Ford Explorer. It was great. I love that. I kind of miss that car, actually. It's really nice. But no, I couldn't buy it. I went with my dad to the Ford dealership, and I'm just like, oh man, this is a great truck. I'm just gonna get this truck. And it was a very cool moment, because straight out of high school, of course, when your son says they want to be a musician for a living, it's you don't expect to get paid ever. So the fact that I actually had a royalty check and was able to go out and get a set of wheels was a great thing. Storytelling. Well, that was my favorite time in kindergarten. I think that I always got the gold sticker because I listened more attentively than anybody else, and I think that kind of continued on throughout my whole life. I was a very imaginative kid, and I think that from being told amazing stories when you're little to wanting to grow up and wanting to be the person to tell those stories, whether it be through film or through music, or all I do as a singer is try to tell a story, whether it be my own or someone else's, and I think that that's all really great art tries to do, openly and honestly, is be the vessel for that story. And I think that's the way that we learn about ourselves, is the way we learn about the world around us, and it's exceedingly important that not only through arts education in schools, but just through arts support in general.